everybody. Welcome to Champion This podcast with Brianna, Salvatore, Dueck, and Chelsea Poppens.
We are fired up to be here today.
Let's
Let's go. It's been a
go!
long time in the making that we wanted to launch this podcast together, and we couldn't be more excited to be here today. So, for those of you wondering, what is Champion This? Champion This is essentially a show where we're going to bring on champions of change across the sports and entertainment industry, using their platform to make the world a better place. So really our heart behind this is to be able to showcase the stories of those athletes, again, using their platform and unlocking their potential as a means to not only inspire Chelsea and I, but hopefully inspire the listeners as well. During the podcast, we'll dive into the personal why of these champions, what's the driving force behind their actions, and then understand kind of what are some lessons learned that we can also apply to our own lives in embracing our platform, again, to spread that love and light. Because we have a short time here on this earth, and so what we do matters, and we want to drive that impact.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of started this idea of doing this podcast with Bree and I is we played basketball together a long time ago, and so that's how we know each other, and we got to talking about just reconnecting around sport. And Bree's in the sports industry. I'm not quite in that industry as far as work goes, but we were just talking about the cool thing about NIL and even just creators in general using their platform for good and positive impact across the board, whether that's in the US or abroad. And we found out that we had a lot of really cool friends out there who are doing really cool things, and we wanted to create a space. Yeah, we wanted to create a space for them to story tell and to share their stories, share their background, share their why, and share their heart. But we also wanted to inspire everybody, because we felt inspired through the people that we know, and just the conversations that we were having were like, let's go. We were getting fired up. We were getting amped.
Yep. 100. Yeah. So super, super excited to be here and get to share that with everyone. Just to kick us off, I would love to hype up my girl, Chels. For those of you that don't know, Chels is a boss in every way. As Chelsea said, her and I met in Switzerland when we were both playing pro basketball. She used to come over and sleep on my pull-out couch. She was one of the only pro players who had a car. So, no, she wasn't homeless, but she would mop through to my city, Lausanne, and we became really close and just immediately saw her heart. And that was so beautiful and uplifting and encouraging and full of light. And again, she really embodies what it means to be a purpose-driven athlete. But yeah, a little more about Chels. She's a former WNBA pro hooper in Europe as well. She played for 7+ years overseas. She's the chief operating officer at a marketing firm. She also is the founder of CKP Athletics. And Chels is a bucket on the court. We just played a 3-on-3 tournament with her and our girl Hannah O'Flynn at NBA All-Star Weekend, and we won. And I just was feeding Chelsea. Get that game winner, baby. Let's go.
Buckets all around.
She's the bucket.
I would say we still got it.
We still got it, though, with these old knees. But for real, Chelsea, I'm so honored to get to co-host this show with you. You really do exemplify, just being a light in your community and an inspiration to all. So, yeah, couldn't be more pumped to host with you.
Thank you. Well, it's going to be hard to follow that. Well, we have Bree here. She's also, of course, a former pro hooper. She's a fellow bucket, United Nations alumni. She's a sports strategist, hoop bus advisor, an impact-driven athlete. And so, Bree was a lot of the heart behind this, because it's what she's doing for a living, is focusing on that impact and the positive impact of sport. And she's just an all-around badass, and I'm thankful to call her my friend. And she's been such a light to me and everyone that she encounters. And I'm really excited to be partnering with this podcast with her and see where this goes.
Oh, thanks, Chels. Very sweet. Yeah, same here. Let's go.
So let's kick this off, Bree, by you telling a little bit about your background, how you started playing basketball, and what the sport means to you.
Yeah, for sure. So sports have meant so much to me, like many of our listeners here, for you, Chelsea, as well. But for me in particular, I started playing basketball when I was in the fifth grade, so 10 years old. I was completely trash when I first started playing, but it was wild because I was kind of a little bit of an awkward kid. I'd had a harder time connecting with other kids. My own personal story, I unfortunately lost my birth mother to a car accident when I was quite young, when I was about almost 3. And I think as a result, I just had kind of clammed up a little bit, had a little bit of a harder time connecting with other kids, just in my shell kind of. And basketball was this incredible tool to really help me connect with other kids, to find confidence in myself, to have fun. Even though at first, again, I was completely trash, like least
Hard to
athletic.
believe. Hard
No,
to
no,
believe.
so bad. Last to come in on the freaking suicides. I'm like struggling there. But then I really found my safe space, and I found my community. I found my friends. And then I started getting good because my dad went all in. He's like, yes, we will go to all the clinics and all the camps, and you will play on 5 basketball teams, including a boys basketball team. He was about it, dove in head first, and I was about it. And it helped me to really, again, find that confidence in myself. I went from being a kind of an average student to like getting straight A's. I was like, eventually like went on to be on the take on some leadership roles in high school, for our student body government, head of commissioner of athletics, all those different things. And I think the confidence that I gained through sports have helped me to be successful in my life. And I probably over-index on like sports metaphors at work, where my my colleagues and my friends are like, all right, calm down.
They're like, you can
But,
tell she's a jock.
exactly. So yeah, basketball's meant so much to me. I had the chance to play in college at UC Davis for Jennifer Gross, Joe Turamoto, Matt Clement, Desabeta, truly the best coaching squad in the NCAA. That's my hot take, but I'm sticking with it. And then went on to play professionally in Switzerland, which is where we met. And throughout all those experiences and other opportunities to play around the globe, in Togo, in China, around Paris, all around Europe, I've really just seen the beauty of sports, again, as a connector to break down those cultural barriers, allow us to build those bridges with people that are different than ourselves, and again, spread that love and light. So that's kind of why my own personal why, which is sports as a tool for good, is so deeply ingrained into like the essence and the DNA of who I am. It's kind of goes back to my own story. So that was long-winded. I'll stop. But.
No, that was good. That was good. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree with you. As far as like it's such a huge connector sport. Same for me growing up. Like I grew up on a farm shooting hoops in the haymound, super country. I would
I love that.
also say I was garbage, but I was
I don't believe it.
I was most called unorthodox in the nicest way.
I love that. Let's go.
Unorthodox.
Wait, what were you like when you were first playing? What do you mean unorthodox?
I was a hard worker. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the best way to
That's
say
on
it.
brand
I
for
was
you.
I
Yep.
was a really hard worker. I would outwork everybody on the court. I might not have been the best, but I
Yeah.
was definitely gonna outwork every single person out there. And
Yeah.
I give credit to me growing up on a farm and kind of the mentality that is instilled growing up on a farm. Rain or shine,
Mm-hmm.
you got to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love that.
if you commit to something, you do it 100%. You don't like quit mid-season.
Yeah.
If you pick a sport, you're doing it all season. If you pick
Yep.
band, you're going to do
Yep.
it
You better be the
until
best flute player out there. Let's go. Yeah.
percussion, let's go. And so that was really cool growing up in my small town farm mentality. And honestly, our high school was I shouldn't say garbage. We weren't very good. Our AAU was absolutely killer, and
Yes.
we had a lot of great teammates. That was where I actually was spotted for college, where people were able to see my
Mm-hmm.
talent in a elevated space with good athletes and
Yeah.
talent. And it gave me that opportunity to go to Iowa State and play for Coach Finley, one of the best coaches and coaching staff, my personal opinion.
Love that.
Had a great experience there. And then I went in to play for Seattle Storm. I got drafted in second round to Seattle Storm. I got cut from training camp last day, and then I got brought on to San Antonio Stars for the remainder of their season. And from there, I went over to play overseas for 7 different countries, and I met
Mm-hmm.
you, and I met a lot of
Mm-mm-mm.
really great people and had a lot of tremendous experiences that I never would have if I would have just stayed in my small town and stayed in
Yeah.
Iowa in my comfort zone. And so, like you, I got to experience the way sports affects people and the way it
Mm.
connects people, and
Mm-mm-mm.
it just is a shared space. It's like a safe space no matter where you go. It covers languages. So even if you and I are in Switzerland and people are speaking French, yelling French at the coaches, yelling French at us,
Allez, allez, allez!
we
Bouge
get
tes fesses! Bouge ton cou!
we get we get we get to decide, even if we know exactly what they're saying, because
Yes.
the game of basketball, we can ignore what they're saying.
It's really that, yes.
Yeah, so it's just really special
Mm.
to be a part of basketball, even now that I am older and retired and my bones are dusty. And
Stop. Your bones are not dusty. You're a bucket, like I said. You literally dropped like 20 of our 25 points last week, 2 weeks ago.
yeah, with my swollen knees for the next few weeks.
It happens. It's okay.
Yeah, but for me with the CKP athletics, and I'm sure with you, I'm sure you're like being involved with kids and seeing teaching it is learning basketball twice. And so
Mm.
when you teach it to kids, you get to see how a sport elevates their confidence
Yeah.
and makes them feel good. And a lot of the kids I train aren't actually looking to be D1 players. They're just
Mm-hmm.
looking to learn traits and for me to care for them as more than just an athlete, but as a
Yep.
person. And they just
100.
yeah, a lot of the
Yeah.
kids, like, we're awkward when we're growing up. We remember middle
Totally.
school, high school,
Oh,
elementary,
so
whatever.
awkward. Not like these Gen Zs today. Not at all.
Yeah.
Nope.
They look great these
Yeah.
days.
Little TikToks.
Little awkward
Yeah.
ginger when I was my age.
Right.
Uh, but like they just want the confidence to dribble the ball or to
Mm.
shoot, to
Mm-hmm.
be at a baseline level of just
Yeah.
not being embarrassed for
100.
a layup or something. So
Mm.
I think it's really special to see both sides nowadays.
Yeah. I love that, Chels, because I think especially in America and US culture, we can get so focused on like elite sport. And if you're not getting a college scholarship or if you're not going to play pro, like, why do it? And I think parents can get really, really intense around it. But just participating in sports and getting to be a part of that like crew and build your confidence and just have fun. Like
Hmm.
it's so beautiful and so powerful. So I love what you're doing with CKP athletics and getting to kind of share that light and that love with those kids. And I'm sure you have some really cool stories of transformation or like, and maybe that's something, I don't know if you'd love to share. I would be curious to hear even just through some of your experiences with sports or CKP athletics, like is there one story that comes to mind of like transformation or impact that you've seen in the lives of one of the kids that you've trained or I don't know, maybe one of your teammates playing overseas? I'd be curious to hear about that.
Yeah. Um, as far as stories go, I remember one kid. So I trained both girls and boys, and so one kid that I was training, he was a lot shorter than the kids his age, and I remember him kind of, I'd say, coming into training and with his head down and kind of half-assing it,
Mm,
and I remember having a conversation with him about how he didn't think that he was ever going to play at a collegiate level or a pro level or anything, and because he was short. And I remember telling him, I was like, "Do you see all these athletes out there who are short, but they're just outworking everybody else out there?" And I had like kind of a pep talk where I was telling him that he is capable of doing whatever he sets his mind to. That there are athletes who are like undersized and doing it, and so he is fully capable of doing it. And the light switch in his mind changed from that day forward. And his parents even told me that he was just more eager to learn, more coachable. His work ethic was there. He was just dialed in, and he is much more passionate about the sport after that. And
mm,
I mean, I haven't seen him for a long time, but even if he doesn't go on to play pro ball or play at the collegiate level, I think just understanding that you're capable of doing whatever you put your mind to, as long as you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really special.
Yeah. That's so cool, Chelsea. I love that. And I love yeah, your heart's beautiful, your encouragement, those words in that moment, like the ripple effect that could have in his life, could be massive. And it's so cool to kind of see that switch in his heart too. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
but
awesome.
imagine if people didn't pour into us at that age,
Mm,
or didn't tell us that we were capable of doing those kind of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Do
hear
you
you.
have anybody that like poured into your life growing up that changed besides your dad? Because obviously he was pouring. He was absolutely
It was
pouring.
raining. It was pouring.
There was a
It
flood.
was it was a flood. It was so good. No, of course my dad. He sacrificed so much for me, popping around to all the different clinics and the camps, and like we would drive out. So I grew up in Orange County, and we would drive to Riverside, like far into Riverside, 3 times a week for my club practice, which would take like 2 hours on the way out because of the traffic, then an hour on the way back. That's just, that was his vibes. That's what he did. And then my mom, so my birth mom passed away, but the Lord gave me another mom named Sandy, who's amazing and beautiful and lovely. And she also has just been such a champion of me in so many ways. And I think she really inspires me in many ways and really supported my basketball journey and my career, but also just like the way that she shows up in life and like the light that she brings and all those things, I think have been really inspiring to me. But yeah, I've also had the most incredible coaches. Like I said, Coach Jen Gross, head coach at UC Davis, Joe Teramoto. They're married with 2 kids, which we love, that whole family. Matt Clement, Desabeta, the entire UC Davis basketball coaching staff has really just also poured into me, and then had amazing high school coaches as well. So I've been really, really fortunate to get to learn from the best. And I think that's held me to a standard as well of like what it means to be a great leader and what it means to, just recognizing that there's so much. We as humans, the light and the love that we put out is contagious. And you're either, I really think it's pretty black and white. You're either encouraging or uplifting, spreading that love, or like, I don't know. I feel
Or
like
you're
it's
not.
kind of one or the other. Yeah. Or you're not. Exactly. So I've been super fortunate to get to, be a part of that. It's been really good. Chelsea, I also want to talk, so I want to switch gears a little bit. Something our listeners might not know about you is that you also do color commentary or color analyst for ESPN for the Iowa State Cyclones. So would love to hear like a little bit more about that experience. Also some thoughts on the state of women's basketball, and also what this means for your women and girls more largely, and for our society, the elevation of women's sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I kind of stumbled into ESPN commentary. I think I got recommended by Lindsay Finley, and I think she was trying to get out of it, so she recommended me. And I initially didn't want to. I was scared to do it. I was scared of getting canceled on live television. I was scared of speaking events, and so one of the morals and the values that I live by, which is kind of a pain for me, is I'm going to lean into things that make me uncomfortable, because I'm always seeking growth. And so I started doing it. I remember my first game. I was sitting there shaking mid game because everything's so fast paced, and I was just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And trying not to get canceled or say anything that we're not supposed to say. And I mean, I wasn't good at the beginning. I remember being like, I don't think this was really good. And then I also remember a game where I actually felt really good about doing it. And
Mm.
it felt natural, and the flow was really well. And I remember the exhilaration post game where I was like, I crushed that.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, that kind of continues to drive me into my fears and the places that I feel uncomfortable. And it's really cool to see women in this space too.
Yep.
I see a lot more of people that I played with or played against doing color analyst work now. And it's just really cool, the elevation of women in sport, but also just women in general on these types of platforms. So obviously
Yeah.
NIL is helping, like Caitlin Clark doing a great job in women's sports, and a bunch of different athletes, Angel Reese, people, they're able to make
Mm-mm.
money. They're able to make money off their name and likeness. Women's sport is almost more popular than men's sports these days. And it's really cool to see, coming from where you and I used to play back in the day, and social media was not really even a thing. We barely got TV time.
Yeah.
It's just like equal pay, equal amount of like ESPN time, TV time, all of it. I think our platform is changing so dramatically, so fast, and
Yeah.
I just think it's just really special and really cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm with you. And even just, I mean, this stat is kind of depressing, but women's sports coverage making up 4% of all sports media. That was the stat, I think, 5 years ago. Now it's increased to 15%, according to a recent study by Wasserman, if you take into account like digital media as well. But we still, despite this like amazing increase in viewership, there still is that, that kind of disconnect and inequality that continues to be at play. But I'm so excited, like you said, because I think the excitement, the interest, like all of the things, like women's sports are on the rise, and we recognize that fandom is increasing year over year, viewership, all the things. So pumped to see where we continue to go here.
And I love the support that celebrities and other professional athletes are giving, like WNBA,
Mm-hmm.
collegiate sport. You see a bunch of celebrities going to watch Caitlin Clark at the University of Iowa,
Yes.
and
Ted
they're
Lasso courtside,
oh
baby.
yeah, oh yeah. How cool would that have been back in our day to see them on the
Yeah,
sidelines? Uh,
for sure.
it's just really cool to see people supporting and people rallying behind
Mm-mm-mm.
us,
Yeah,
and women who are trying to just play our sport and get
yeah,
the same coverage.
for sure. Exactly. Exactly.
You've been doing a lot with sport. Sport has taken you all across the globe, and I want to hear a bit more about UNESCO and some of the work that you've done with them, but also the work that you did with 17 Sport. It'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, totally. I, so for me, to rewind a little bit, after I was done playing basketball in Switzerland, I kind of had this moment of, okay, I could keep hooping. I've had 4 knee surgeries, or how do I channel and take this excitement for sports as a catalyst for good into my like next play, quote unquote, my career after being on the court after basketball. And so it was actually beautiful being in Lausanne, because at that time, Lausanne is where the International Olympic Committee is headquartered. Geneva, with all the massive nonprofits and NGOs like the United Nations Office of Geneva, UNHCR, Red Cross, they were just a 30-minute train ride away. So it was a beautiful place to be when thinking about life after sports. International Olympic Committees in Lausanne. So basically, after that season, I came back to the US, had knee surgery, did some work with the NBA Players Association, but I always knew that I wanted to go get my master's overseas and get experience abroad. So actually went to Sciences Po in Paris, got a master's in international development. Love my school. Shout out Sciences Po. We had a great student body there, 120 nationalities represented in 2,000 students. Emmanuel Macron, president of France, is an alumni. We got a good Jacqueline Kennedy's an alum. No one's heard of it in America, but it's great, great spot. But during that time, I really was focused on, okay, how can I tailor this degree to look at the power of sports in solving global challenges like poverty or gender equity or climate change. So that actually took me to a role at UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization. And I was working on 2 different things. One of them was sports diplomacy as a way to help attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So basically, the UN put
It
out,
rolls off the tongue.
it's just so simple to say and talk. Basically, to keep it really, really simple, I was looking at the role of sports to make the world a better place in light of these different goals, which were, again, about eradicating poverty, education for all, etc. And I also did some work on a gender equity and education program with the G7. I was in Togo, which is a small West African country, as well as in Paris, France. And really, really cool experience. Absolutely loved working in the UN system. I also will say, being young in the system, you're not afforded quite as much like responsibility. It's a little bit slow moving sometimes, even though there's great work being done. So I decided to pivot to the sports industry. Worked at Nielsen Sports as a strategy consultant, really on like the business of sports, but always had in my head this idea of sports and impact. So was trying to launch some projects around research, looking at the ROI of sport and impact, and what that could do for brands embracing a purpose driven sponsorship approach or a purpose driven strategy. And then took a role with 17 Sport where I was there for 3 years. I was the head of strategy, working with different clients like the International Olympic Committee and Adidas and the NFL,
Adidas.
Adidas, UEFA, really helping them, the sports industry, to embrace its platform as a catalyst for good. So again, whether that's Adidas working on their gender equity, breaking barriers program, among other kind of subject areas, it was a really, really great experience and really cool to see the sports industry embrace its role as a change agent because the sports industry has the resources, the influence, the athletes, the platform to drive that positive change. So it's been really cool to kind of be a mover and shaker in that space, and honored to work with great colleagues along my journey at UNESCO, Nielsen, 17 Sport. Yeah, so I'm on to my next play, still TBD, to be determined, but really excited to continue to work on my why, which is again sports as a tool for impact. So
Yeah.
thanks for asking, Chelsea.
Nothing but opportunity there.
Yeah,
You're gonna do
exactly.
huge things. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. So it's like you've had the opportunity to go to all these different countries with through sport as a catalyst. But do you have any stories that you could share around how sports has been making the world a better place,
Hmm, that's a
or
great
what you've
question.
seen in the through what you've been doing with those organizations, even if it's in the past or present?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's so many stories of positive change through sports. I think one nonprofit I'll highlight because I'm on the board for it and I
You're
love
just
this.
like
I love
plugging
this crew.
everybody
Let me
in.
just plug my friends really quick because I love this group. And one of the organizations that I really love is a group called the Hoop Bus, which Chelsea and I were together with the Hoop Bus just recently at NBA All Star Weekend. But the Hoop Bus is an incredible nonprofit I sit on the board for, which is spreading love through basketball. And really, the Hoop Bus is literally a school bus with two basketball courts on the front and the back of the bus, which will go around to different events, different schools, different community organizations, show up, put on kids clinics, bring this beautiful moment with the community where we're sharing that love through basketball, and really serves to amplify existing community organizations and nonprofits. So bringing the hype and the joy and the love of this one day event through the bus to then be a catalyst for resources that are being kind of injected into these different nonprofits. So, really, really beautiful organization, and the power and the magic of the bus is wild. You know, you show up at NBA All Star Weekend, put on a in 2023. We put on an event with Paul George, Clippers rock star, Gatorade, and the Hoop Bus at a school where we renovated a court at a community center, had a kids clinic, kids tournament, had a dunk contest where Paul George was one of the judges. And just to see like the excitement and the joy on the faces of these kids, it was really, really wild, and just so beautiful. And you know that sometimes that's just one day, that's one moment, but that might be the catalyst to be like, I'm going to go now play basketball. I'm going to jump into this sport. It's those kinds of moments that can kind of inspire us. And we'll have Nico Ansem, who's the founder and CEO of the Hoop Bus, on for one of our episodes, which we're really excited to bring on. Yeah, but yeah, so I think it's exciting stuff. Lots of stories. Are there any
Yeah.
others that come to mind to you, Chels? You mentioned the story of one of your players from
Yeah.
CKP Athletics, but anything else from playing abroad that really sticks out to you, or just more largely?
I mean, going back to the NBA All Star Weekend, I think that was the first time in a long time that because when I retired, I stepped away from sports, especially the sports industry, because I needed to redefine, relabel myself, and figure out what direction that I wanted to run. And I needed to figure out that I was more than just an athlete, so I stepped
Mm,
away. And then recently, I've been I mean, I've always had CKP athletics, so I've always been having that sports bucket, but on a smaller scale of things. And recently, you and I went to the NBA All Star Weekend, and it was such a cool experience because I've never been around that many people who are looking to connect, looking to help each other with very like pure intentions. It was just a good time, and everyone was just ready to elevate each other in whatever we are doing in whatever space we're in. And that sport could do that and create
Mm.
that platform and to create that place and those opportunities is just mind blowing. And that's just one example. I have had the opportunity to talk to kids lately back in my hometown and also across other schools in Iowa. And just the fact that you can go
By
in.
talking to kids, just to hype her up really quick, she's like leading assemblies with like 2,000 students in the crowd to inspire them. So, yeah.
When you say assemblies, it just brings me back to school days.
Yes.
So, most recently, I talked to some elementary kids and for Read a Million Minutes. And so I got to talk about the importance of reading and how it can take you on adventures long before you ever able to go on adventures for me as a pro athlete. And just to be able to go in and tell that like kids that were once exactly where I was sitting that they can do whatever they set their mind to. They can
Yeah.
dream big. They can dream whatever dream they want to do as long as they're willing to work hard at it. And it doesn't have to be
Mm.
sports. It doesn't have to be sports. It could be being an artist. It could be being an astrologist, a veterinarian, whatever you want to do, as long as you're willing to work for it.
Yeah.
And sports gave me that platform.
Mm.
And so that was like a way that I was able to use my platform and get back into it after I had already retired, when I thought
Yeah.
my athlete and my sports career was done. But it's like God telling me that there's more juice in you. Like you can
100.
go in and you can come full circle and you can go back to these schools and tell these kids that they're capable of doing more than just
Mm.
not that it's bad to stay in your hometown, but to expand your perspective, to go and do uncomfortable things that are going to help you grow in the long run as a person, as an athlete, as pretty much a well-rounded individual. And that's just a way that I think the world on a smaller scale makes the world a better place.
Yeah.
You don't always see those things happening, but you see the people that are in the limelight using their platforms, whether that's for good or for bad, but you don't always see like the small impacts that we are able to make every
Mm.
single day.
I love that. I love that. So beautiful. So true. Such a good word. I think that's a great segue. Would love to, our podcast is about bringing on those athletes and entertainers across the industry using their platform for good. So my question for you, Chelsea, is what role do you think that athletes and influencers, entertainers can play in this space? And what's their responsibility? Give me some insights on that.
I think everybody's platforms have changed tremendously in the last 5 years with social media, and anybody can have a platform, whether they're a digital creator, they're an
Mm.
entertainer, whether they're an athlete. And to me, if people are not using their platform for good, then they're wasting their platform.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They're in the limelight, and if they're just twiddling their thumbs and existing on that stage, I think they're wasting their potential.
Yeah.
And I just personally just don't understand anybody who wouldn't be wanting to do something good with their platform, because
Mm-hmm.
giving back helps fuel me. Helping people helps fuel me. And so I wouldn't understand it, but I think it just creates a lot of opportunity for anybody, no matter whatever arena they're championing.
Yeah.
Da-da. But it's just, I don't know. It's really cool to see how everything is developing, and there's so much opportunity and space for each and every person that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Yep. Yep. And I think there's something too about like when we're tapped into our own personal purpose and really understanding, okay, God, what do you have for my life? What is my plan and my purpose? Like the giving back is a natural outpouring of that. And so yeah, I agree with you in terms of like athletes leveraging their platform, or people in entertainment who have worked hard for that position, but also in the same respect, like, now what do you do with that? How do you give back, inspire the next generation, inspire those around you? I think that's massive. That's huge. We have a responsibility to kind of play that role. So yeah,
Hmm.
super fired up to get to bring those guests on. I think it inspires us, Chelsea and I, and then also hopefully to inspire everyone listening as well, which is
Yeah.
great.
Only good things ahead. Uh,
Yes.
so we're super excited to get this rolling. Excited to have our introductory podcast going.
Yes.
And if you like this podcast, like, share, follow. We love feedback. So just whatever thoughts you have, whatever recommendations, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out. But big things coming.
Yep. Let's go. Big things coming. Whoop, whoop.